Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Talking Triathlon, where we are going to talk all about the sport of triathlon for the next hour. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by James Bale, also known as the sexiest voice in triathlon himself. I'm bringing that one back, mate. I might lose the other ones, but I do love calling you the sexiest voice in triathlon. And I still remember, who was it when you got introduced and they said, excuse me, I believe you are actually missing one of your names. It is the sexiest voice in triathlon.
Yeah, indeed that. I mean, it's not really you that sustains the name. It's my gravelly voice really that does it itself. It's a self-sustaining namesake. I'm good, mate. I'm in France. I'm still limping around a little bit. The hip freezes up every now and again, but I did a 3.4-kilometer run yesterday. Furthest I've done since I've been injured. It was a joy. How are you?
I got jabbed with a needle the other day on Monday, Tuesday, one of the days. So I'm on top of the world at the moment. I am like fantastic. I feel like a superstar again, running fast, pain free. It's always good. It's that false sense of security a little bit, but
running like the Terminator.
Sorry?
Running like the Terminator.
Exactly. Hopefully a little bit more graceful, not that super rigid. Bit more like the liquid metal Terminator, not Arnie. But
that's the one I meant. That's the one I meant. Keep up, fucker. Come on.
Oh, sorry, man. Sorry, how was I? There's 63 of those movies now. So it's mostly Arnie. So statistically, there's a better chance of it being Arnold Schwarzenegger rather than the other guy. People know I've had the plantar fasciitis, tore the plantar fascia in my foot at the end of last year, and it's sort of started to do a lot of speed work because I had the first injection February, and it was maybe 5 weeks. And they said after about 5 weeks, you probably need another one. And I lasted 5 months. So doctor's pretty happy. Said, just to remember, it's just plantar. There's nothing serious, not a stressy, nothing like that. So just keep progressing. So yeah, feeling good, mate. Feeling good. Like, it is nice to be running fast. Actually being able to just run and not, I've got to hold this back or this and just cut loose. So
yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm still very much, I'm running for 4 minutes, walking for one, running for 4 minutes, walking for one. And I got to that point now where I can just about get my form back. I got a bit of knee drive, but it's not. I mean, we should rename the podcast Two Old Men Talk About Injuries. That's what it should be called.
I think I need a couple more years before I'm willing to accept myself as an old man, but I'm getting close. Like, I think I was messaging somebody today. It's like, yeah, it's true, what they say, that once you sort of hit mid-30s, everything just starts going downhill. Those young whippersnappers don't know what's coming for them, but I'll keep battling away, mate. I'll keep battling away. What do we start with? Again, it's all pretty new to us, guys. Talking triathlon. That's what we're going to do. Talk about triathlon. If you want to support the podcast, head to patreon.com/talking triathlon. We're going to do a bonus monthly show. There's going to be a community. We had a few signups this week already. So to those people who have signed up, thank you very much. We appreciate it. It is just the start. This is a bit of a rough ride, I guess, for the first few weeks. But as we said last week, we are going to be trying to alternate between interviews and topic-based episodes. So this week, we're going to be talking about what has been happening for probably the last month, James. Now, you hinted at this last week, and we have got a special mini guest who's going to drop in a little bit later because you, on your other podcast, interviewed Chrissie Wellington, the one of the greats of female triathlon recently, and she did have a little chat with you about Daniela Ryf's performance in Roth. So we're going to drop that in a bit later. We'll have a conversation. I would encourage anybody who is a fan of Chrissie to head over to your other podcasts, get out in it, and listen to the full interview. We'll probably include that in our show notes this week. But we're also going to talk about Andrew Messick retiring. We're going to talk about the future of the IronMan brand. We're going to talk a little bit about Roth. We're going to talk about the PTO Collins Cup not happening, and we're going to talk about the PTO Asia USA Tour as well as WTCS Hamburg, which is happening this weekend. So we're up for a bit of a ride, mate. Where do you want to start? Where should we get started?
Well, I don't think we should start with Roth. I think we should leave that for the meat of the episode a little bit later, because what weekend that was. Why don't we? Hey,
Messick.
Let's talk about Messick. Messick stepped down, hasn't he?
Messick stepped down. So was it last week? It was last week. It came out right there. There's the announcement.
It was, yeah. I mean, the statement said that he had planned to step down the weekend that Hamburg had happened, but thought best to delay it timing wise for a few weeks, just to let the dust settle on that a little bit. But I mean, irrespective of what the statement says, the optics, I mean, whether it's true or not, everyone's going to think he stepped down because of the events in Hamburg. Is that not the case?
Yeah, I think we said this a few weeks, the old version of the podcast, we talked about the fact that the sport isn't in this positive, rosy place that we're seeing. And I think that IronMan is probably, bearing the brunt of it. Like, it's been a rough year. Not even a year. It's been a rough few months for the IronMan brand. And I don't think you had to be a genius to see something come in. Normally when there is this turmoil or there is this, I don't even know if you want to call it transition or whatever. The changes tends to be inevitable. Now, you're right. I saw this and thought, yeah, this isn't. Again, I have no inside information, and I'm sure there's other interviews or whatever where this is all. I don't necessarily buy it. I would say that there is something's going on there. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, like we discussed recently, triathlon's having a bit of a traumatic time. I think a lot of that has stemmed from the Ironman ecosystem.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen two arguments on this in terms of Messick's legacy in his reign, because yes, he has taken the company from where it was to making more money, more races, more athletes, more age groupers taking part, higher participation levels. But then some of the pros reflections have been more, he's crippled the pro side of the sport. You've seen prize money dropping. You've seen world championships not selling out, even on an age group level. And then there's obviously a lot of complaints about splitting Kona into two.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard that.
Those aren't complaints that I particularly have, but they are, again, complaints that people have, and therefore they must be taken as valid. And so, his legacy is going to be a mixed one, isn't it? I think it's going to be a mixed one. I'd like to see them replace him with someone external.
Yeah.
Because I think they need a bit of a change of narrative rather than to carry on exactly the direction they're going. I'd like to see the pro racing really brought back to life and focused on within Ironman within this next, within the foreseeable future. But I don't really know what to say in terms of his departure. Good on him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably made himself a load of money and off he goes now. He's still going to be on the board, isn't he?
Yeah. I think that if you look at the history of us talking about the brand of Ironman, specifically, not look at the sport, but the brand of Ironman, it has been I think we've been quite happy to criticize when we think it's needed to criticize, but we're also quite happy to praise when we think they deserve praise too. And if I was to look at Andrew Messick's tenure at the helm of Ironman, I think it is a bit of, as you sort of say, it's there's good and there's bad. I think I mean, I'm only a Sith deals in absolutes is the saying, and I think that's definitely the thing here. Like, it's impossible to say whether it's a purely positive or a purely negative thing. I feel like in a lot of ways he's put the sport in a better position, but like you said, in a lot of ways also, I think probably not. And again, we're probably a bit, it's a fact. Most people purely care about the age group element of the sport, and I think if you're purely interested in age group racing, you'd say it's a much better place, more races, and you can't deny that stuff, but for somebody like me, and I assume like yourself, for the people who really love the pro side of the sport, I think he's done a lot to damage the pro side of the sport. But you understand why. It's not like I think that it's very easy to sort of have this cold-hearted narrative. This guy's like, I'm gonna fucking destroy the pros. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's a business person making business decisions. And that's not necessarily a bad thing either. It is if you're like us loving the pro side, but I think it's very hard for people to necessarily remove the emotional attachment to a brand that means so much to people and think of it the way that he probably does, which is, my job is to make this company as much fucking moolah as I can. And to that point of view, I think he's done a really good job. Now, there are a lot of things that I think he's probably, as we've touched on, that aren't great, but there's a lot that he's done that's good. So it is a very, sort of mixed bag thing. I think, I will look back on his time and say that I think he's done a good job. Would I have done things differently? Yeah, but yeah.
I think we've got to be aware of our own bias, and we are. Correct.
Yes.
From our perspective, we care about the pros. I don't race Ironman. I'm not anymore. I'm not a participant particularly. So I'm even one step removed from you. I don't particularly care about that side of it. I care about the race experience that people have, and I'm care that it exists. But my focus is the pro side of the sport, and from that perspective, he hasn't done a great job.
Yeah.
But like you say, from a business perspective, they've probably made incredible decisions which have driven the business forward. I think where there is elements of concern for me, which were super highlighted at Hamburg, because initially, when you're seeing age group fields swelling so much that it's almost impossible not to draft, and there's so many people on the course, and races are just being oversold to the point where it's ridiculous. And I used to think that was mainly a problem when it comes to drafting, but you see something like Hamburg happen and you suddenly realize quite dramatically how much of a safety concern that is as well. And I think that's something that needs to be taken into account, because I think they took their eye off the ball a little bit when it comes to how important the safety experience and the race experience is next to them making as much money as they can.
I'm gonna get a little bit, I guess, philosophical here, or I don't even academic or whatever you want to call it. But I feel like we are sort of seeing the hubris of Ironman a little bit now. Some people are like, the fuck is hubris? It's that idea of, when you sort of become so sure, self-aware, so self-sure of your own success, that you sort of start to, I don't know, do things that are probably not the best in the long term. And I feel like we are maybe seeing that a little bit. And I don't, to say what I'm going to say, I want to reference the fact that Tim Hemming, again, the goat of triathlon reporting, did a great interview with Andrew Messick this week. If you haven't already, I'd head over to Triathlete magazine and give it a read. It is a very, very good interview that Tim did with him. And I think reading it, you can see that there's I keep saying there's a lot of good, right? There is a lot of good stuff that he has done. And when you talk about the fact that, he has tried to do these things to sort of like grow the sport and, increase the number of races and women's participation, these sort of things, it is positive. But I don't even, I've lost my chain of thought, to be honest. I don't even know what I was trying to say then.
You were talking about hubris.
So these decisions that they're making, it seems as though they are like, we're so big we can't fail. And people are going, actually, let's see about that. But to counter that, I thought that Messick made a really interesting thing. He said, when we made these changes, when we announced we were going to split Kona into Nice and Kona and do the two, we knew that immediately short term there was going to be a negative reaction. But we're not looking at the next 1-2 years. We're looking at the next 10 or 15 years. We are looking beyond the short term. By the time that this is happened, the people who are complaining probably won't still be doing the sport, or some will, but the majority of people, because we know the life cycle of a triathlete is relatively short. A lot of the people now won't still care that much because Kona won't mean as much to them. And I thought that was quite an interesting and compelling argument a bit, because I think I said a few weeks ago, I was talking to somebody and he's like, I've been doing the sport for a year and a half. Kona doesn't mean anything to me. I don't particularly care about Kona. And I think that's we talk about bias. That is a bias that a lot of people have. And I think it's hard for people to remove their bias from looking at it. I feel like a lot of those changes are positive, but yeah, there is also that element of especially with the pro stuff, to be like, yeah, we don't need the pros anymore. I think that will come back to haunt them a little bit in a bad way. I think the splitting Kona away, moving one world championship around, maybe it's Nice all the time, maybe it's not. I don't care about that. I think that's brilliant. I think that's excellent. I think it gives more accessibility for European people to go and watch a world championship race when it happens. And I love the idea of a varied, different kind of race experience. So it's not always in the same place. What I don't like you say, is the loss of focus on the pro side of the sport and what that brings to a triathlon ecosystem. Because ultimately, maybe the pro sport isn't earning as much money as other pro sports at the moment, but if you grow that, and it does, then the entire ecosystem of triathlon raises. You said something about who you'd like to, what you'd like to see replace, or who you'd like to see replace Andrew Messick. And I was thinking about this too. And I would really like to see a non-American take the reins. I'd love to see a European or somebody who's not an American take the reins of this company. James Bell, you are my number one pick, to be honest.
I'll do it, yeah.
I actually would love to see somebody like you step up to the plate. But I think that the brand has been, and again, like I said, stepping to Nice and things like that, a huge step for me. But I don't think America's the hub of triathlon anymore. And I'm not denying, and I know we have a lot of American listeners who will probably get angry with me right now. But to me, the hub of triathlon is Europe now. That's where the most talent's coming from. That's where the best racing's happening. And I think that if you saw somebody based out of Europe, or a real focus from the organization to shift and not remove themselves from America, but become a lot less America-centric, would be a real positive for the sport. We talk about ways of growing the sport. If they put the same, again, you look at Kona, right? And traditionally it's always been a very heavily geared towards an American field, because there's so many races in America, so many Americans qualify for the world championships. I think I'd like to, and again, I know there's plenty of races in Europe, but I think that's something I'd like to see. I think that would be a really positive step for the brand, not necessarily just for the sport, but for the brand. That's something I'd like to see. And yeah, I think somebody removed, maybe someone from another sport would be great, who doesn't come from
I think they need to go external. They can't promote from within on this one. I think we need a fresh set of eyes on it, which will bring in a different way of doing things and perhaps new ideas. Not everything needs to change. They are fantastic at event weekends. I just spent the weekend at IronMan Switzerland, and it's incredibly well-oiled machine.
I mean, they're the gold standard, mate. I stand by this. They are when it comes to the actual race day experience, nobody does it better. I mean, I'm going to go do the PTO Singapore event this year, so let me sort of reserve judgment until then. But I have done so many different branded events, and I still to this day, my favorite races are always Ironman, right? Not necessarily the actual, the course or whatever, but I've always had such a polished event experience from registration, the whole thing. And I mean, talk about Messick, and I did want to just put, give a little anecdote about him, but I still remember in 2016 when I raced the 70.3 World Championships, and I was coming up to the mountain line out of T1, and who was there at the mountain line going, was Andrew Messick. And I still remember being like caught off guard by the fact that he's the CEO of this organization, like literally just volunteering at the age group race at the World Champ. I was like, that's pretty cool. But I referred to the Tim Hemmings article when I lost my place before, and there was something that came up in that article that I'm actually genuinely shocked more people aren't talking about, and it links back to something that we've been talking a lot for the last few weeks about, which is doping in sport. And when he was asked about doping in sport and top athletes doping specifically, he said, we have taken cases all the way to the court of arbitration for sport and lost. And these are people we believe we had cold. Now, I saw this, mate, and the hairs on the back of my neck prickled up, and I'm like, what the fuck are you like? What? And he said, we're never going to know who these people are because, they've got, but I don't understand why there's not more people focusing on the fact that he said that there are a lot of top athletes who they think they've caught for doping and have lost in arbitration. I don't know how to. I'm shocked that it's not being covered more.
Yeah, it's a real shame. Obviously, within the doping procedure, the anti-doping procedure, you have like anonymity until the point at which you're shown to have done it. So we'll never find out who those names are unless they cross the line and get caught at some point in the future. But it is, you sent that to me. That was the first I saw of it. You sent me that section of that article. And it's gutting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you instantly, not only, it has like multiple effects. You think, oh my God, somebody in the sport, people in the sport I love are doping and they're not getting caught. And then you put it casts this veil of suspicion across everything. You start wondering who it is. Do you know what I mean?
Mate, I can't stop thinking about it now. I know. And I was saying, I think I was talking with somebody about, and I said, like, I am, my experience of triathlon has been ruined as a result of a lot of this stuff that's happened recently because I am so skeptical now. And I've always been such an optimistic. And again, you see the people like, are you surprised by this? I can't believe you're surprised by this. Like, duh, obviously it's happening. I mean, and I've always just, fuck off. I'm starting to like actually become a pessimist, mate. I'm becoming a bit of a pessimist. And it's like every time I see.
Don't go down that road.
I'm trying not to.
I've been there with cycling in the 2000s. And you just have to like genuinely, and this is genuine advice because I used to do my head in about it. It used to really wind me up. You have to step back from it.
Yeah.
And think it's someone else's job to police the sport. It's not mine. My job is to enjoy the sport, consume it. And then if that person who is policing the sport tells me something's doing wrong, I can react to that then. Because going through life second guessing it ruins it for you. You end up not enjoying the sport because you always, if you become one of these people online who's like, everybody's doping, of course they're doping. And it's like, mate, what are you doing watching the sport then? You're simply existing to be a troll.
Well, if you ever come across an Instagram account that has a picture of Superman as the profile picture, and it starts going on about doping, there's a pretty good chance that I've gone full dark side and I've got the anonymous Twitter account just to start trolling. I don't think I'll get that bad. Look, to me, it was more just, it's like I just can't understand why it's not being talked about more. But look, I don't want to dwell on this stuff because there's, as we said, a lot more we're going to talk about. One of the big things, I put out a poll this week on the Talking Triathlon Twitter about what people think we should talk about. And the biggest topic was they wanted to talk about the future of Ironman as a brand in, I guess we're going to call it the post-Messick period. So we sort of talked about who we'd like to see replace Andrew Messick, or what sort of person we'd like to see replace Andrew Messick. But what do you see the opportunities for Ironman? Like, where do you see the brand going as in the post-Messick period, the PMP?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, the opportunities for them are this. I mean, the PTO exists now and they are really trying to elevate the pro side of the sport. What I would like to see IronMan do is take the focus a little bit off the shareholders' dividends, and reinvest some of that money into the pro side. So pros aren't going to Ironman races, and if they win or they get on the podium, it just covers their travel expenses and a little bit of food while they're out there. I would like to see professional athletes earning enough money to really make a life out of this sport deep down the rankings. I want to see investment in that. They've what they managed to do at the moment is they provide outstanding race day experiences for age groupers. It's a brilliant ecosystem to exist in if you're an age grouper, because you get everything you want out of a race. So it's not like they're still making a huge amount of money on top of that. So it's not like they're tight for a bit of cash. So I would like to see them really invest in the pro side of the sport, because it helps everybody, because the more money the professionals are making, the more sponsors invest in the professionals, the more advertisers invest in the races, the more age groupers buy the gear that the professionals are using, the more money the triathlon ecosystem makes, and the more races those age groupers sign up for. In my opinion, it's fairly basic, and I don't understand why they moved away from that. I mean, I understand their perspective is like, we're all about participation, but that love of triathlon came from somewhere to begin with, and it came from the pros racing triathlon. Just because now it's become this thing where participation is the driver doesn't mean that if you completely fuck the pro side of the sport off, eventually participation will start to dwindle, because there is no pro sport that it's supporting.
There's only so many stories we can hear about some person overcoming a challenge to get to Kona and race the World Championships. Haven't we seen this before? There's only so many people. Like, one of the big, I think the opportunity for me is I want to see a much less combative or adversarial approach to competition in the sport. I'd like to see a bit more collaboration. And I know I've said this a lot, but I'm a bit of a nerd. I follow a lot of I like video games. I follow a lot of video game. In fact, most of the podcasts I listen to personally are about video games. And I still think Phil Spencer, the CEO of Xbox is Microsoft. And he's very much like this, where he says, instead of trying to maximize our slice of the pie, let's work together to grow the pie so that everybody's piece is bigger. And I would fucking love to see this happen with triathlon, because IronMan is the biggest name in town when it comes to triathlon. But they're not interested in growing the pie. They're interested in taking the whole pie. And I just really want to see a shift, where we've seen how many times where Challenge will start a new race in a new town, and Ironman will start one the same weekend, or all the races are always around the same time, so you have to choose, or Challenge will put on a race and then Ironman come in the next year and buy it. And it's just this adversarial approach to the sport that I don't like. I would rather see some, again, I don't know, maybe it is World Triathlon as the organization, or if it is the PTO, whatever it is, but the idea of actually, let's fucking look at our calendar together. Okay, you guys are going to do races here. Okay, so we'll do races here, and like actually have some sort of idea. And maybe there is we've got the PTO series, we've got the challenge, we've got the PTO tour, we've got the challenge championship, we've got the Ironman championships. Maybe there is the possibility of doing some sort of multi-race series. I don't know what it is, but I feel like that's a big thing I'd like to see, is let's actually collaborate. Let's see these brands work together, because we know that for a fact that Challenge, World Triathlon, and PTO are happy to work together. And there's one brand that's always on the outer. And I'd like to see that change a lot. I think that's, to me, is the big thing that I hope we see. Because again, as the amateurs, as the age group is here, a monopoly isn't good for us, right? Like we should never want a monopoly.
And the amount of times that you try and go and you look at the calendar for the year and you're trying to think about races you want to do, and everything's clustered together because they all want to fuck each other over.
Yeah.
Oh, Ironman wants to fuck everyone over, it seems.
Yeah.
And it really does make it difficult, because you can be in the UK. If let's say I don't race in the UK anymore, it's my rule. But let's say you're planning a season in the UK. It's a difficult season to plan. You can't do that many races because everything's clustered on the same weekends. And I agree with you wholeheartedly there. I think there needs to be a much more synergistic approach between these organizations, so that we're trying to make the sport a better place for everyone to be. And ultimately, with that comes better experience for them, because they're going to get more money out.
Well, that's exactly right, isn't it? Because if you look at it, again, let's go back to what you were saying earlier around trying to invest and reinvest in the pro side and increase the exposure and things. When you have every race on the same time, it actually then means, much like there is in the business side of triathlon, everyone's fighting over scraps, right? And it then becomes the same with the broadcast, where you have a challenge race on their stream, which I love your challenge, but your broadcast is fucking terrible. And then you got Ironman, and their broadcast it's okay, but it's still not great.
Apart from
Blender's the gold standard. But like, it's like, even then, the races that are actually trying to broadcast to make these things good, they're damaging themselves again by compete. It's just like, again, if they just space things out, it means that there's more opportunity for people to watch the sport, more opportunities for sponsors. It makes, in theory, makes a lot of sense. You just got to remove that adversarial
If there's a
elements.
triathlon, if your choice is between doing Challenge Weymouth or IronMan Bolton, which IronMan Bolton's not going to exist anymore, but and they're on the same weekend, you're only going to do one.
Yeah.
If they're 3 weeks, 4 weeks apart, you're going to spend 2 lots of money to do both.
Exactly. Like and that can't be. Like we're not genius. I mean, we're definitely not geniuses, but like we can't be the first people. This can't be like information that the powers that be don't know. Like it's so obvious that I mean, I think that a lot, like I said, I think a lot of the things that you've actually
I think
seen
it's obvious from the outside. I think when you're in a business doing a job, your role is simply to maximize the return for whatever your job is, and it's not. I think from the outside it's obvious, but I think internally they just think, Iron Man, fuck them, fuck everyone else.
It just has to be us. Oh, there's a race on. So you're saying that their train of thought would be that there's a race in the UK in September the 17th, and it's quite popular. Well, we should put a race on September 17th because it's clearly demand. So we should go in there and we'll take that demand rather than go, fuck, well, maybe if we put one 3 weeks out, or that's a full distance challenge race. What if we put a 70.3 4 weeks before that in a similar area? They don't think. Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean.
That's the way I see it. I just don't see them thinking like that. I don't see them thinking strategically like that. I think it's more of a blunderbuss type approach than a rapier.
I mean, people aren't going to surprise to know us that we're not. I still think that the change of world championship locations is positive. I think that I think that that's definitely something that I hope maintains. I don't want to see a sudden pivot where everything just goes back to Kona. And I know people might disagree with me. That's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I prefer the idea of a rotating world championships. I'm personally really excited about Nice this year. Again, I wish it was both men and women, but I think what you look at what they did with 70.3 worlds and the rotation has been great. Although this year's 70.3 worlds, I don't know how I'm feeling about it. I think that, like we just sort of touched on, it has become such a crowded month that it is a little bit
almost impossible place to get to as well, I'm told.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm not going. I was literally, when I heard it was
saying that the town is so full that they're having to bus people from Helsinki, which is an hour away. So it's looking very difficult. But yeah, I hear you on the points you were making. And I completely agree. I just think we need to really forge a path forward now where everything's working together. And I agree with you. Kona and Nice being split, I think is a rotating world championship. I completely agree with. What I don't agree with is the men and women being split.
Same.
A lot of people like that. Some of the female pros I've spoken to have said, I really like the fact that we get our own weekend. I think you should just have a Saturday and a Sunday across the same weekend.
That's how I
because then people who are couples, who travel and race together.
I don't care about the triathlon couples, to be honest. That's
but you know what I mean.
I do. Yeah, it does. The families and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a man, if you're a man and wife, or a husband and husband, or a wife and a wife, or you want to just be able to go and race your weekend. You don't want to think, well, fuck, now I've got to go to Kona. You've got to go to Nice. How much is this going to cost us?
Yeah, I know. Look, that's it. I want to move on. We got plenty to get through. They're my thoughts. They're the main couple of points that I think I want to see for the future. We've covered Messick. We've covered the future of IronMan. Let's talk about Challenge Roth, mate. Let's talk about Challenge Roth. Do you want to?
What a weekend that was.
What a weekend it was, mate. I didn't watch much of it, to be honest. I was doing a whole bunch of other stuff, but I was definitely following the races. I mean, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to go through a blow by blow for the race because
a few weeks ago.
A few weeks ago, everyone who wanted to know what happened at that race knows. I think we need to talk about the implications of it. It was amazing. We'll talk about the women's race first. It was amazing to see Daniela Ryf do what she did.
Yeah.
Like I said to Chrissie in the interview that we have or haven't dropped in yet, whenever that's going to be.
Should we drop it in should we drop it in and come back?
Right, let's drop it in, then we can talk about it.
I'm going to make a little note of the time. We'll be back.
You held the world record for covering the iron distance in 8:18:13, set at Challenge Roth in 2011. Daniela Ryf has now set a time of 8:08:21 at that same race. What did it feel like to watch that and to be there? And what did you think of Daniela's performance?
It was such a privilege to be able to be there and to witness such an incredible performance. I know Daniela, and I know we use the term greatest of all time quite a bit, but I really believe that it's applicable to her. She's such a phenomenal athlete, incredibly versatile, strong across all three disciplines, physically incredibly talented, mentally strong, strategically savvy, technically astute. She's to me the whole package. So to be able to be there and to see her perform and to perform what I believe is to her best was a real privilege. It was an honor to be able to hold the world record for 12 years. I'm really proud to have done so, but sport is dynamic, and you compete to the very, very best of your ability. I competed to the best of mine, and I was able to break the world record then, but sport evolves, and you hope that you can in some ways be part of a process that sees other athletes grow and develop and aspire to be more than you were. And if I've played a small part in enabling Daniela to kind of exceed her own, limits and achieve more than maybe she could have ever imagined, then I'm really pleased and proud. So although admittedly it was hard to pass that baton on, there's a finality to that, which is difficult. I don't think I'll ever again hold a world record, but it was a privilege to have held it, and I couldn't have hoped for anyone better to have broken it and to now hold that crown than Daniela.
I mean, you've more than etched your place in triathlon history, and that, those records that you did hold and the victories that you achieved, I mean, they'll be there forever and live on. The story of your career is fascinating and illustrious.
Yeah, I was so fortunate to have had the career I did. It was something that I never would have scripted, envisioned, or expected growing up. I think it speaks to a need to be open to opportunities and to be willing to try new things. Because had I never said yes to my friend that suggested I try a triathlon, I never would be sitting here today, having had all those amazing life-changing experiences. And that's a key lesson and learning for me, is to always seize those opportunities and to be willing to explore and be curious about one's own potential. And I certainly, growing up, never could have envisaged being a professional athlete, but yeah, it gifted me so much. But James, it's a finite career. It's a career that can't last forever, whatever sport you embark in. And as a professional athlete, you always know that there will come a time where you need to transition away from that sport and carve out a new and very, very different path. But I'll always be so grateful for everything that the sport of triathlon and professional sport gave me.
In talking about finality, it wasn't long ago that the ecosystem of triathlon was trying to tell everybody that Daniela Ryf was fading and done. And I think we can put that conversation to bed for the moment and just look forward to what she's still yet to achieve in the coming years.
I think her performances over the years have shown such resilience and tenacity. And that's the mark of strength in an athlete, is the ability to bounce back after disappointment or adversity. And she's had races, quite a few races by her own admission, that haven't gone according to plan. But yet she remains focused, but is also willing to learn from those. And she races under a considerable amount of pressure. And I think any professional athlete at the top of their game can speak to the impact that that pressure has. And for her to be that resilient and tenacious and to bounce back, especially when, like you said, some commentators may have written her off, is really, really impressive. And to me, that's the marker of a phenomenal athlete, not just to be able to win, but also to be able to perform subsequent to disappointment or adversity.
And we're back.
See, as I was saying, like, as I said in the second part of that little mini interview I did, a lot of the triathlon ecosystem tried to write Daniela Ryf off a few years ago and said that her star had faded, her time had been and gone. And this disproves that so much. And it was awesome to see a powerhouse performance like that. I loved every second of it. And for her to take, what, 10 minutes off Chrissie's record?
10 minutes, mate.
10 minutes. And Chrissie's response to the question of what did that feel like, I thought was brilliantly honest, because you expect the expectation from an ex-pro sports person or a pro sports person just to be like, oh, it's amazing, records exist to be taken, you know, of course, happy days sort of thing. But Chrissie was like, no, there was a finality to it that I didn't enjoy. But also I'm pleased that someone like Daniela could do it, and what an exceptional athlete she is and how amazing her performance was. But she was honest about, you know, how that finality felt. It was like when I lost my hair in my early 20s. There's a finality to that, you know?
I don't know, actually. I'm so happy it was Daniela Ryf who broke the record. And I'm, you know, what you were saying about people writing off, I think I've become a bit guilty of that, because you know, if you look at the, like last year where we finally got to St. George, and I said, I just can't keep picking Danny because it's not working. She came back and I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep picking Danny again. And then I started picking Danny again, and it sort of went down, and it got to that point. I'm like, and again, some people don't like me saying this, but I've been quite vocal about how I think Paula Findlay is, you know, potentially, you know, one of the best in the world if she's on or off. And I know I get people coming at me for it. Keep doing it, I don't care. But I've put Daniela Ryf in that category a bit too recently, where when she's on, she'll break the fucking world record, right? And she'll beat everybody by 15 minutes. But I don't always know what Daniela Ryf I'm going to get. But fuck me, having her come out and do that, I couldn't have been happier, because again, it's like all is right in the world when you have, like,
yeah.
I always expected Daniela Ryf to break that record. Like in my head, when you look at the, you know, as things are meant to be, Daniela Ryf should, after everything she's achieved in long course triathlon, she should take that world record. It seemed like it was inevitably hers. And then we saw Annie Haug doing the things she's been doing this year, and, you know, leading her off. Fucking hell, Annie Haug could be the one that does this. Laura Phillip could be the one that does this. Chelsea Sodaro was so good in Kona last year. Chelsea Sodaro could be the one who does this. And nope, it was Chrissie's from almost the moment the gun went. Like it was what a performance.
Daniela's.
Right? Sorry, it was just Daniela's, like, all day. And to do it the way she did it, just to, you know, go off the front and just dominate. Like we look back a few weeks ago where she raced Ash Gentle, that Switzerland 70.3 race, and she beat Ash Gentle, arguably the best middle distance athlete in the world at the moment. And I thought, oh, it's just because Ash is early season, and it's just, you know, Ash is probably a bit better at the 100 miler and Danny's motivated by home crowd. No, that was not what it is. It is just that we are seeing Daniela Ryf return to her greatness. Now, Daniela Ryf returned to her coach, Brett Sutton, this year. And I like to, again, you know, I don't particularly care for Brett Sutton, but whatever he does with her seems to fucking work, mate. And it was a pleasure.
I mean, look, I think you're right. I think in the entirety of the women's pro field, in this generation, there's no one who deserves to have broken that record more than Daniela Ryf does. You know, it feels right that she was the person to take that record off Chrissie, because I feel like that record will now stand for another period of time. Do you know what I mean? I don't
that's
feel
interesting.
Like that's interesting. It's going to get chipped away, and it's going to. I think she's taken enough off it that Daniela Ryf is going to hold that record for some time now.
You see, the other thing that I find good about this, because if you look at the men's racing, right, and Magnus's performance is exceptional, but we've seen the men's times, like, we've seen that it was like 7:35 in 2016, and then it was sort of that for a while, and then we sort of had the which record's the right one, and then we saw Jan go 7:27, then we saw Christian go 7:21. Like, we've seen the men's times coming down for quite a while now, and the women's has been that 8:18 has stood for, as I think Chrissie said, 12 years, 11 years. It was 20. When was it? 20? I don't even know when she
2011.
did. 2011. So
2011,
12 years that record has
12
stood. So we haven't seen the same, I guess, relative progression in women's times compared to men's until now. Until now, because now we're seeing the same thing where, we've seen this humongous chunk of time taken off. I think we're going to see a women's sub-8 in not that long too. So I sort of disagree with you. I think that record might not stand. I think that we're going to see the floodgates open a little. There's almost like a psychological barrier sometimes. The thing is, I think it's probably going to be Daniela Ryf who does it too. Like, that's the other thing. If she maintains this form, right, I could see, her performance is going to motivate athletes like Chelsea Sodaro. They're going to motivate Kat Matthews. It's going to motivate Laura Phillip. It's going to motivate Annie Haug. If we have a race, Lucy Charles, like, how can I ever forget Lucy? If we have a race where we see these women pushing each other, because Danny did this race solo, right? Like, she went off the front and did the whole thing solo. And I just imagine if we actually had them all together pushing, that's when I think we're going to see something incredible. I think we could really see a women's actual sub-8 Ironman happen in the next 3 or 4 years. And I wouldn't be surprised if it is a Daniela Ryf who does it.
I agree with you. And so Daniela Ryf came in first place in 8:08.21, with Annie Haug in second in 8:21.09, and Laura Phillip in third with 8:25.31. What surprised me about the rest of the field was the gap to them, because it shows that it wasn't just the conditions or the day. It wasn't like it was a particularly fast day. Do you know what I mean? And the gap between Ryf and the rest just underlined her performance and her domination and her superiority on that day. And I was very pleased to see it. Yeah. And she was at Ironman Switzerland as well.
Yeah. I saw there wasn't, because Jan van Berkel retired. He won the race and he retired afterwards. And I think that Danny was there sort of celebrating with him at the finish, which I thought was...
It made me move. I was in the expo at the end when he'd won the race, and I had this big table to myself, just sat there on my own, contemplating drinking a beer. And they came and asked me if I'd move so they could have their little post-race party on my table. And I was like, fuck you.
Invite me. Hey, let me join you.
Yeah,
I'm the sexiest voice in triathlon.
I thought you said fight me.
Yeah. Anyway.
They had donuts. They had more donuts than I've ever seen anybody have anywhere.
Well, now you know the secret to Swiss racing, right? It's powered by donuts. Maybe that's going to be the next
indeed.
The next big thing. The men's race side. Yeah, as we said, again, another just absolute domination. Magnus did what he did last year, but better. Phenomenal time. I cannot comprehend how, again, just masterclass. Perfect race. Like, there's no weakness in his performance. Great swim, incredible bike, incredible run.
Yeah, he certainly worked on his weaknesses, isn't he? To get 7:24.40 like that.
That's
he was there he was up there in the swim, which is
46 minutes. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
That was the shock for me when I'm tracking. I was like, "What the fuck? Good on him? Like, where did that come from?" It's whatever he's changed with his swimming was a sight to behold. But
indeed, and then to dominate the bike like he did, and then to hold on the run, to put in a really good run. To I mean, we know that Sam Laidlow had some issues. He seems to constantly be having issues at the moment, whether it's illness or injury or whatever. But he was up there, but then he suddenly wasn't. Yeah, moving house. Yeah. Yes. And no matter how quick Patrick Lang's marathon was, which was fucking swift, there was no bringing back that lead that Ditlev had. And I think this year, even last year, Ditlev had the lead, but the commentators, even though it was unlikely he was going to get caught, the commentators were giving it a bit of credence. They were like, "Oh, he might get caught." And I think
he used to suck. He used to be a shit runner, right? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
he used to be a terrible runner.
Just like, no matter how quick Patrick Lang's going, he ain't going to catch him.
No.
And that was that. Daniel Beckegaard is quoted as saying, isn't he, after the race, that how does someone sustain that much power on the bike for that long? I mean, it is remarkable what Magnus has achieved.
There's been a lot of talk right around power numbers and what he's able to hold, and it's like actual pro cycling numbers, right? And we've seen Taylor Knibb, who's, I think she's riding for, I think I saw an article this week where she's trying to go to the Olympics both in triathlon and cycling. I want to see Magnus try the hour attempt. Like,
Took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see him do the hour record. I want to see him do the hour record somewhere at altitude and see what he can do. I mean, don't get me wrong, these pro cyclists are good. So it's not like we're going to see Magnus Ditlev eclipse them, but I think he would put up a very good fight there.
Well, aren't the numbers that he's pushing out, and like they're bigger than some of the biggest names in cycling? Like,
yeah, but the hour record isn't all about numbers.
I know.
It's
I'm just,
I know, but through the air, aerodynamics,
yeah.
The guy who beat Bradley Wiggins pushed less power than Bradley for that hour. He was just a smaller frame at altitude, so he went faster.
Yeah, fuck. At this point, man, unbelievable. Just unbelievable performance. And you're right. Like, same level. I don't know whether it is a case that he's maybe like that second place in Kona could be this sort of haunting thing where he's sort of made a rod for his own back a bit, right? Where he sets this bike course record. Now he's having he's pushed super hard to ride with a Cam Worth, and now he's pushed super hard to ride with a Magnus Ditlev. And I don't know whether it's true or not, but I'm like, is this sort of like you've created this machine that you've got to sort of live up to? And I'm not trying to, because again, Sam Loder's an incredible athlete, but yeah, like second place in Kona, we haven't really seen him deliver much this year yet. So hopefully, whatever it is, because I think he said he tore his calf or he's popped his calf or something, like that could mean he's out for Nice. Like there's real consequences potentially, but still with 747 or something, so he's not fucking about.
So yeah, Magnus Ditlev won the race in 7:24.40. Patrick Lang came second in 7:30.04, and Ben Canute third in 7:37.01. Ditlev at the finish line said, "I've been working hard with a personal swim coach, focusing on the technique, and we have known for a while that my swim level in the pool is quite good. So trying to translate that into open water was the challenge. I think it's a lot about getting that experience with the mass starts, and I think the swim course in Roth suits me quite well in the way that it's a very long way to the first turn buoy. Sometimes it's more like 200 meters to the first buoy. It's much more a lottery when you don't have top speed." So a little bit of insight into his swim progression, and good to see Sebi Kienle as well racing Roth.
I think Jan Frodeno was excellent in commentary. That's the other little shout out.
Yeah, it really was. Belinda and Jan, I loved it. Belinda's, I think, my favorite sports commentator, mate.
Yeah, don't say that, mate, because she'll never shut up about it. I love you, Belinda. PTO, mate. There's plenty of PTO chat to be had now. The first thing being the Collins Cup is not happening this year. It's still, has it been formally announced? Because I've been I did notice that I get the PTO announcements in my inbox constantly, like the constant, press release. And it sort of went quiet for a while. I wasn't getting anything. And then I think I saw somewhere that, then the rumbling started happening. You get the messages and everything. And yeah, I think a few athletes I know had said, yeah, they got the email saying that the Collins Cup isn't happening. But like, what do you think, mate? No Collins Cup this year. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a shame. The flagship event, the thing PTO, builds itself around, launched first. It was their big thing. It was going to be the new thing. Now they're saying it's going to be a year's break and the Collins Cup will be back, but it's got a worrying undertone to it as a outside observer from, looking at their organization. You'd think that the flagship thing that was their sort of new baby was going to be there to stay. There's a worrying undertone to it. I do hope it's a year's break. I do hope it comes back. I mean, it's a hard thing to televise. It's a hard thing to broadcast. We've seen that. So maybe they're thinking, well, our focus needs to be on the PTO Opens a bit more, because they're a little bit easier to broadcast, easier to make a TV spectacle out of. Maybe there's a bit back to the drawing board a little bit with the Collins Cup. Who knows? But I haven't seen any really formal or official statements on it.
Yeah, it was interesting because I saw what the wording was, right, was that they didn't have enough time to put on the sort of event that they wanted to. But to counter that, like I remember November last year, everybody was talking about the fact that it's in Marrakesh in Morocco. And it's like, that was sort of, so to say that it hasn't had time when it sounds like they've had months and months, like I kind of don't necessarily buy that too much. And again, I don't know anything. I have no inside information about this, but yeah, sort of what you're saying. I wonder if it is a case of, maybe this concept isn't quite right, because I don't think it is. I like the idea of what they're trying to do, but as I've been quite vocal about, I don't particularly care about the nation thing. I think that we see a bunch of matches that aren't that exciting, and trying to actually broadcast it's a bit of a mess. So
it's a brilliant on the ground experience, from a fan on the ground.
Yeah, but they wined and dined you, mate. Of course you fucking loved it. Come on.
No, it was, yeah, they did, but it was really exciting having these races finishing almost all the time. It was great because you always had a finish line to cheer and stuff. And so I really enjoyed it. I just don't think it's a great broadcast experience. There isn't enough there aren't enough screens in the world to capture everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And you're all over the place and you don't really know what's happening.
I mean, I really think that if it was a case of, okay, the location just what didn't work, they could have very easily gone back to Shamarin again and just replicated what they've done in the past. Like, I think that would have been a suitable stopgap, right? But I'm guessing that because in December or November when it was planned to happen, it's probably a bit chilly in that part of the world. That probably what made it untenable. But yeah, I hope that it's maybe a different or something slightly different. I mean, I just think, yeah, I think a bit more. Yeah, I don't think it's a great sign, but we'll be curious to see. But it is a bit concerning, right? Like again, sort of like we talked about with IronMan, it's like we saw with the PTO drop their prize purses this year, and they're limiting things to 20, 30 athletes. Like there's a lot of changes. So for this to happen, it is probably that momentum, that momentum in a bad way, where we're probably reading too much into it just because it's a series of always the way, right? They come out, we've got all this money to catch, they're making it rain, they're doing all this wonderful stuff, and it's like, oh, we're pulling this back, we're canceling this, we're not doing this, we're not doing this. So yeah, it's not great, but
we'll see how it shakes out.
We still got the two other races this year. We've got the US Open and we've got the Asian Open, but let's talk about the US Open because the start lists have been announced. Is it the US Open?
Yeah.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon, mate? What do you reckon about the PTO US Open?
Yes, start list has come out. We got Ashley Gentle, Paula Finley, Taylor Knibb, Chelsea Sodaro, Laura Phillip, Holly Lawrence, Tamara Jewett, Kat Matthews, Sky Monch, India Lee, Jocelyn McCauley. Who else is on there? Ellie Salthouse, Ruth Astle. So there's plenty of names on there. The men's start list got Magnus Ditlev, Christian Blumenfeld, Sam Long, Ben Canute, Beckegaard, Aaron Royal, Frederick Funk, Lionel Sanders, Alistair Brownlee, Bradley Weiss, Jackson Laundrie, Tom Bishop,
Jason West. Jason West is on there, right?
Let me just see if
I think I saw him. I think I saw Jason West.
I can't see his name.
I think I saw it on the Instagram tiles.
Oh, yeah, there he is. Yeah, Jason West is on there as well. So look, these are solid fields to be racing. It's a shame we haven't got a Jan Frodeno in there. And it's a shame we haven't got a Daniela Ryf in there as well, to be honest. But
or a Gustav Eden or a Lucy Charles Barclay, or like there's again, it's I look at it and I hate to sound like the sport prick, but I'm like, there's a lot of names I'd really like to see rather than focus on the positive, because again, it's a stellar start list. But I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm just going to be honest. It's what we do on this. Like, I'm not feeling the hype on this one, to be honest, mate. Like it is feeling like it's soon. It's in like what, 3 weeks, 2 weeks? That's 6th of August, I think. Like, I don't know how hyped I am for this race.
No, I mean, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
And I'll see what happens. And I think, there are enough very, very strong athletes within those fields to make it an exciting race. I don't know where my hype is at the moment. I think I'm very Nice focused right now.
Same.
And then I think that's probably where my main excitement is sitting, because I just see everything as a build up to Nice. And these PTO races will be brilliant, and they'll be a good key indicator of form. I'm intrigued to see how Alistair Brownlee goes, as always.
Well, you see, Alistair Brownlee is an interesting one to talk about, right? Because he still hasn't qualified for Nice. There's talk that he has to go to Lake Placid in like 2 weeks and has to get his slot, basically. But I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know. Again, I know nothing. But surely he wouldn't be leaving it this late by choice, right? Like, he's had. There was Nice. There was Switzerland last weekend. Like, there's been enough races that I'm guessing if he was fit, he would have done.
Yeah, I mean, like Christian said in our interview last week, it's looking like they're struggling.
Yeah,
to really key that in and find that pathway to Nice, whether it's injury, illness, lack of fitness, whatever. You would have thought you'd have that done by now.
Yeah, so I don't, because we're talking this US race is like what, 2 weeks after Lake Placid, or 2 weeks after. I can't see him going to Lake Placid. Like, Joe's going to Lake Placid. Like, they're good. It's not going to be a walk in the park for him to win that race and qualify, right? So I can't see him excelling or qualifying for Nice at an Ironman race, and then 2 weeks going against the Christians and that, and like, it doesn't make sense to me. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Alistair Brownlee over the next few months. I guess I think we're going to see. I'm almost expecting us not to see him at Nice. Is a I guess maybe a controversial call, but I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I've kind of got there as well. He's a never-ending source of disappointment at the moment. from a spectator fan's point of view, because there always seems to be an injury or an illness or a blow up.
I did see somebody commenting on it. There was a post I think Tri24/7 put up where they were talking about the fact that he was on a start list, and somebody said that as fans we probably are a bit harsh on Alistair Brownlee because we have such high expectations of him. So whenever we see him on a start list, we always automatically expect the word from him, right? And a lot of the time he doesn't race because again he's probably maybe struggling with stuff, and we do sometimes set him up for failure a little bit. And I think that's actually a pretty valid sort of argument to make. Like we need to cut the guy a bit of a break because I don't think he's doing any of this on purpose, right? Like I don't think he's out there intentionally like I'm going to fucking keep everybody in the loop. And like I get concerned, right? Because I feel like we saw him have the opportunity to, a race like St. George, I think was perfect for him. And I think that a race like Nice is perfect for him. And if we don't see him either as races, we know that Kona doesn't suit him. Like maybe it's just, I don't know. I don't know, mate. I am so just sort of resigned, as you sort of said, it's probably not going to happen this year, I think, but which is devastating because I really wanted to see Alistair Brownlee on that Nice course. He came second when it was 70.3 worlds in 2019 against Gustav. I still remember watching him run, the change in his run form when we thought he had Gustav and then he realized he wasn't. But yeah,
you know who I'm most looking forward to racing Nice?
Tell me.
Seeing race Nice. Joe Skipper, mate.
Joe Skipper. 100%. Like genuinely, I feel like there's a bunch of names. I think we're going to see a very different sort of race unfold in Nice. It's a very different. I think, did you see Dave McNamee put up a post recently? Again, an athlete I have such respect for. I want to get Dave on the podcast, but he's put out a post saying he's not going to be racing Nice because he had a serious bike crash a few years ago and he's not confident enough to take those descents. Smart decision for Dave, but like that's what I mean. I think this is going to see a very different sort of athlete excel.
It's going to see a very, very good cyclist, bike handler,
yeah,
take control of this race.
Yeah,
and I think it'll suit Skip down to the ground.
Yeah, I think so because I think there's Jan Frodeno too, mate, living up in Andorra now. Like, I think it's going to be interesting, but yeah. PTO, that's the fields are there. Let's see what happens. We'll probably do some coverage over the next few weeks. I'll definitely check it out. But yeah, I just, to be honest, I'm not feeling the hype at the moment, which is odd for me because normally I'm all over this shit. But yeah,
we'll see what happens. But before then, we have got the WTCS Hamburg this weekend.
We do.
Come out. The qualifying races will be happening as this podcast.
It's an eliminator, isn't it?
Friday. What is
weird
it?
Format?
It's a Super Sprint World Championships races taking place across 2 days on Friday, July 14th and Saturday, July 15th. They compete over 300 meter swim, 7.5 kilometer bike, and a 1.6 kilometer run with qualifiers and repechage on Friday, seeing 30 athletes advance to the finals on Saturday. On Saturdays, the finals will take place across 3 stages with 10 athletes cut at the end of the first 2 stages, leaving a final 10 competitors to battle it out for the final stage to determine the winner.
It's Super League, just done worse.
Yeah, it's Super League, just without the high quality broadcasting.
Correct.
Presumably.
Yes.
Presumably.
Yeah.
So it's basically WTCS's tilt at doing a Super League type event. On the men's side, you've got Yi, Wild, Hauser, Christian Blumenfeld.
Gustav?
I think the dynamic, no Gustav here. I think the dynamic is interesting with, I didn't see Gustav on the list. He might be there, but I didn't write it down.
That's right.
Yi, Wild, and Hauser. I think that's interesting because you've got the Yi and Wild rivalry, but also Matt Hauser's recent run of form, having won at the Metz French Grand Prix, beating Alex Yi, probably the first time, definitely the first time Alex Yi's been beaten this year. So I'm interested to see how those 3 shape up. And obviously Christian's looking for his first WTCS podium.
You're back. I lost you.
Did I freeze? Everything I've been saying has been spectacular. And then on the women's side, you've obviously got Beth Potter from the UK, probably the favourite for this race. But then I'd put Cassandra Beaugrand, Katie Zaviras, and Gwen Jorgensen in there as well, because Gwen is.
Yeah, so she got on the start list. Yeah. So no Georgia Taylor Brown, no Sophie Colwell, none of those names.
I didn't see them on the list. No, I think Potter is the only Brit.
Interesting. That's interesting. Okay, I mean Cassandra Beaugrand for me. I just think that when again, sort of like I've sort of said now about Danny and Paula, yeah, I think Cassandra Belgrand is, when she's on, I think she's red hot. But I mean, Beth Potter's proven to be exceptional this year. I'm expecting Matt Hauser to win it in the men's. I just feel, again, maybe it's a bit patriotic of me, whatever, but I think we've seen Matt Hauser really overcome some barrier or whatever you want to call it, block or something like that. I do get excited always about seeing Alex and Hayden race. Two guys you could just never, count out, but it's going to be good. I also know it's the age group world champs. I know a lot of people I know are heading over there for the races at the moment. So yeah, it's going to be good. I'm going to be checking that stuff out. I do like a bit of WTCS racing, which is exciting. A bit more exciting.
As am I. But before we get to that racing, you know what I'm going to do this afternoon?
What are you doing this afternoon? Tell me.
I'm going to go and watch a stage of the Tour de France in person.
Yeah, you've been loving it? You've been loving a bit of the Tour de France?
I've been loving it, mate. Yeah, it's been a very, very exciting race this year with epic racing from almost the outset. So it's
you've been watching the Netflix doco? Did you watch it?
I did. I thought they did okay. I think it was one of those things where if you were a cycling fan, that it probably was left a little wanting because it has to be very explainy. Like for people who aren't cycling fans, it has to be very explained. I really didn't like the fake commentary they put on top.
Okay, I've not seen it, so
it was too. When you watch it, listen out for because they obviously can't use the race commentary. They have to then re-record commentary, and it's just so obviously like not really in the moment. Yeah, it's just not it. It's just some guy saying, "Oh, and now he's at the front of the race, and at this point, he looks like he's trying really hard." And it's like, "Oh, stop it, mate! Stop it! You don't sound like a cycling commentator." Other than that, I thought it was good. They left out one of the key moments of that tour, which was when Vingegaard waited for Pogacar when he crashed.
Yeah, I remember this.
But they didn't include it. They didn't include it as a moment, and that surprised me. Yeah, other than that, yeah, we'll check it out. It's great for cycling. Going to increase viewership of the sport. So yeah,
love it.
Everybody should check that out.
Well, Jimbo, if people want to check out more stuff about this podcast, what do they need to do?
Oh, well, thank you for listening to Talking Triathlon. If you want to support the show, jump on at patreon.com/Talking Triathlon. If you want to follow Tim, he's at tford14 on Insta, and I'm at bale.james85 on Insta. Find us across all social networks at Talking Triathlon on Insta and at Talk Triathlon on Twitter. If you join up to the Patreon group, you'll get access to the monthly bonus episodes and the social group. And we have members now, don't we?
You got to set that up, actually. I just realized we do actually have to set up. We have to commit to that. That's the task for next week. Also, guys, please jump on iTunes, give the show a review because we are the new Talking Triathlon. So it's all new. So if you listen and you enjoy it and you thought, yeah, I keep meaning to do it, get on there, give the show a review.
It's a moment of your life. It's a moment of your life. Give us a review.
We'd appreciate it. Jimbo, a pleasure as always. We'll be back with a guest next week. We don't know who it is yet, but we will get that sorted in the next few days. Until then, talk to you later.
Cheerio.